Chapter 12, Outer Space, Your Great Discovery. What makes the great great? It is a sense of destiny. Peter Daniels. The mind is the standard of the man. Paul Laurence Dunbar. You can be anything you want to be if only you believe with sufficient conviction and act in accordance with your faith. For whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Napoleon Hill. The great savannas of the African continent are ancient and seemingly changeless. It's a place where the wind blows and the days pass as they did millions of years ago. It is a land rich and beautiful, but mysterious. Here life abounds, though death is never far off. In this unforgiving place, nature and time brought forth a creature unlike any before, upright and curious, confident and adept. This creature saw the world unlike anyone before him. Forced from the jungle into the savannah, it emerged a fierce competitor. Armed with a brain of unparalleled power, it was not only able to adapt to its world, but have its world adapt to it. A new being had stepped forth, a human being, a black man. We are newcomers against the vast backdrop of the past. We are human beings with a brain that would soon reshape the very world that brought it forth. Within this brain burns an invisible cellular flame that controls its world. It struggles with the most human of questions. Who am I and why am I? This human houses a steering mechanism that can refashion positive and negative thoughts as artfully as it could fashion flame and food and shelter for its survival. The human brain is a 3-pound mental guide wire that is comprised of 100 billion soft, wet, fragile cells small enough to balance in the palm of the hand. Here resides the architecture of our experience, the mindscape of human thought. But how does this mass of tissue weave the human mind? How does its crackling fires stop time in memory? Though it does not generate enough energy to illuminate a light bulb, the brain is still the most powerful energy source on earth. It is the center of every insight and invention, every vision and idea, every symphony, painting, and poem. To paraphrase William Shakespeare, this is truly the stuff of which dreams are made. This cellular network holds the record of who and what we are and the experience we call life. And through it flows the forces that have accomplished all that our species has brought to the planet. No mammal enters the universe more helpless than the human being, but none shows so much promise. While creatures are blessed with greater speed, size, and strength, they lack the power of the human brain. By now you realize that all that man achieves or fails to achieve is the result of his own thoughts. A man can rise, conquer, and achieve only by lifting his thoughts. He will remain weak, spiritless, and miserable by refusing to do so. Before a man can achieve anything, he must lift his thoughts above slavish animal indulgence. The higher he lifts his thoughts, the more upright and righteous he becomes. The greater will be his success, and the more blessed and enduring his achievements. The universe does not favor the greedy, the dishonest, the lazy, although on the surface it may sometimes appear to do so. Instead, it helps the honest, the persevering, and the virtuous. A strong man cannot help a weaker man unless the weaker man is willing to be helped. And even then, the weaker man must become strong himself. He must, by his own efforts, develop the strength that he admires in another. No one but he can alter his condition. There is nothing in the universe that limits him. The great masters of the ages have declared this in varying forms. To prove this maxim, a man needs only to persist in making himself more virtuous by lifting his thoughts. Achievement of any kind is the crowning effort of self-discipline. With the support of the aforementioned principles, a man ascends. Through neglect, that same man declines. the ultimate resource. When asked to describe man's great resource, James Allen, the English essayist, told the following tale. One day, two successful businessmen were standing on the bridge overlooking Niagara Falls, impressed by the breathtaking view. One turned to the other and said, "Behold, the greatest source of undeveloped power in America." "No," replied his friend. "America's greatest source of undeveloped power is the soul of man." In our country, thousands of people of all races try desperately to excuse themselves for their lack of achievement. Millions turn their attention toward poverty and failure and are receiving both in overabundance. Try to uncover any reason for this inactivity and you will hear the following arguments. It's society's fault, or the circumstances are beyond my control, or better yet, you either have it or you don't. These people view themselves as victims of an unforgiving system rigged for their eventual demise. When you study the unheralded accomplishments of the thousands who have walked out of the ghettos into greatness, you uncover the truth. These poor, despondent victims are actually volunteers who are ignorantly cooperating in their own failure. Many men and women idle away their lives waiting for something to turn up or for someone to give them a boost. The greatest evil lies within the minds of those who believe that the world owes them something or that somebody must help them before they ever start. Let me hasten to remind you of those valuable words spoken by Theodore Roosevelt, who emphatically stated, "Begin where you stand." The greatest resource of the world today are not those that lie beneath the earth. Natural resources such as oil, iron, platinum, and yes, even gold, when compared to the resources that each of us has at our disposal, are virtually worthless. The greatest resources are human resources. That is, the need of the human soul to desire, to produce, to be self-reliant. Langston Hughes, the prolific and acclaimed writer, knew the true meaning of this ultimate resource. Few American writers have had such rich and varied experiences, and few were so indiscriminate in selecting materials for their works. A broken family and a segregated society appeared to offer him little. When life seemed to close its doors, he turned to writing and discovered a different world. Never one to forget his cultural past, Hughes wrote with a passion concerning the plight of Black America in the 1930s. So talented was he that the literary world referred to him as Shakespeare in Harlem. Though Hughes was a victim of discrimination, his deepest allegiance and hope for the future was distinctively tied to the country of his birth. He wrote, "All over America there has been an economic color line against the Negro. Since the Civil War, we have been kept, as a racial group, in the lowest economic bracket. Look around you on the main street of any American city. There are no colored clerks, no colored streetcar conductors, no colored girls at the switchboards of the telephone company. Even in Harlem, 9 times out of 10, the man who comes to collect your rent is white. Yet America is a land where, in spite of its defects, I can write this article. Here, the voice of democracy is still heard." Being black and poor did not distract Hughes from realizing his ultimate resource, hope for the future. Stand up and step out. Unfortunately, too many of my race cannot define or specify what exactly keeps them back. All too frequently, they feel there's something, whether they call it fate, hard luck, or the system, that binds them to lives of misery and poverty. Perhaps this is the most bitter irony of all. Some even tell of what wonderful things they could accomplish if only they could cut the cords that tie them. If only they could sever the shackles that hold them to insufferably boring lives. They feel if only they could rid themselves of their impediment, they could soar into achievement. Do not hypnotize yourself with the idea that you are not in possession of this ultimate resource. Do not talk of such nonsense. There is nothing in the universe that limits you, or that could or would desire to limit you. As long as you think you are inhibited, you will never rise above those boundaries. The man who acknowledges that he is only a menial laborer will never become a leader of others, unless he changes his conviction. He is simply paralyzed by his inability to recognize and put into action his ultimate resource. The world stands back and takes notice of the exceptional man or woman, regardless of color, who can step out from the crowd and do things in an original way, who can facilitate new ideas. The world is looking for leaders, always searching for aggressive and progressive men and women, those who identify with success and can show others how to attain it. Booker T. Washington makes the point crystal clear. I have begun everything with the idea that I could succeed, and I never had much patience with the multitudes who theorized why my goals were impossible. I've always had a high regard for the man who can tell me how to succeed. There is no shortage of human robots who will do just enough to hold their places within the ranks. The world craves creativity, individuality, and successful methods. Supply a waiting world with these needs, and it will beat a path to your door. Black America, this is your responsibility. The person you are meant to be. About a year before his death, George Bernard Shaw granted a rare interview to a well-known journalist. The reporter's questions were designed to lead the famous English playwright to reminisce. One of the journalist's probing questions was, Mr. Shaw, you have known some of the greatest men of our time, statesmen, artists, philosophers, and writers, and you've outlived most of them. Suppose it were possible for you to talk with one of them again. Whom would it be? Which man do you miss the most? Without hesitation, Shaw, whose biting wit had made him internationally known, retorted, the man I miss the most is the man I could have been. One need not be a renowned philosopher to be able to look back at the man who I could have been, but retrospect without purpose has little value. When you compare yourself to what you were yesterday, what differences do you find? Is life a challenge? Do you have a sense of personal fulfillment? Who is the person you were meant to be? Have you ever heard a person say, I'm sorry, but I can't help it. That's just the way I am. This person is indeed to be pitied. And if such a person truly believes he has no more control than that over the one person for whom he has been given complete control, he can't possibly believe his life is run by anything more than chance, whim, or circumstance. The truth is, he can help it, and if he chooses not to change the way he thinks or acts, he is delinquent in his most basic moral responsibility, his responsibility to himself. As you begin to gain self-control, you will also acquire self-knowledge. You will discover your true self. Though it's true that we are all different, some of us are strong, industrious self-starters, while others are not. All of us can be successful to some extent, but far too many of us don't know we can control our lives, our futures, our destinies, that we can discover the persons we were meant to be. If you wish to uncover your true self, examine your surroundings, your home, your community, your peers. These are a reflection and extension of you, just as much as your image is a reflection in the mirror. Do you like what you see? Remember, it is just as easy to see yourself a success as it is to see yourself a failure, and far more interesting. What about the attitudes of your friends? Do you enjoy their friendship? Do they treat you with respect and admiration? Seek to know yourself. When you do, then and only then will you discover the process of building the inner person. The master key to riches. What does this process need more than anything else? It needs self-discipline. What is self-discipline? In the philosophy of success taught by Napoleon Hill, self-discipline might be described as the counterbalance of enthusiasm. Self-discipline is the principle that channels your enthusiasm in the right direction. Without it, enthusiasm resembles the unharnessed lightning of an electrical storm. It may strike anywhere, leaving death and destruction in its trail. Like so many of the principles of success, self-discipline must constantly be practiced before it can be mastered. If you force yourself to meet prescribed deadlines, to go the extra mile, to stay with a task until its completion, to replace negative habits with positive ones, then you are on your way toward developing self-discipline. In simplest terms, self-discipline is taking control of your mind, your habits, and your emotions. Until you master self-discipline, you cannot be a leader of others, and success will evade your grasp. Self-discipline is the ability to do what you should do when you should do it, whether you want to or not. We all have our moments of supreme dedication, whether it's fidelity to others or loyalty to an ideal. But how many of us can carry out that resolution when the mood has left and the tide of temptation comes sweeping in? Self-discipline means the development of inner strength, conscious willpower, overwhelming desire, and the determination to reach any goal. If you want to change your thoughts into realities, your desires into achievement, the all-important key is self-discipline. In his bestseller, Creating Wealth, Robert Allen writes, "In the locker rooms and lunch halls, they will talk about success and hitting the jackpot and luck. One day my ship will come in. One day I'll strike it rich." Not a second thought about the years of preparation that goes into most successes, the sacrifices, the planning, the coordination, the sleepless nights, the prices paid, the self-discipline. William Hazlitt, the noted English essayist, had a refreshing positive sense of what is at play. Hazlitt simply said, "Those who can command themselves command others." The person who is not the master of himself may never become the master of anything outside of himself. He who masters his earthly destiny becomes, to paraphrase Henley, the master of his fate, the captain of his soul. We all go through life searching for freedom. Personal freedom, religious freedom, financial freedom. Yet most of us never find it. Why? The Creator provided the means by which men could be free. He gave every man and woman access to these means, and He inspired every man and woman with impelling motives for the attainment of freedom. Then why do men and women go through life imprisoned in jails of their own making? The jail of poverty, the jail of fear, the jail of ignorance, when the keys to the door of freedom are easily within their reach, because the door to freedom can only be unlocked with the key of self-discipline. Many individuals search their entire lives for power, fame, fortune, and acres of diamonds. However, most never reach their goals. Why? Because they fail to realize that their real source of power lies within. The mechanism of the mind is a profound system of organized power that can be released by only one means: strict self-discipline. The disciplined person is inner-directed toward definite ends and is an irresistible power who recognizes no obstacle as permanent defeat. He converts his setbacks into victory. He makes stepping stones out of stumbling blocks and reaches for the stars, using the force of the universe to carry him to his every desire. The person who masters himself through self-discipline will never be mastered by others. Self-discipline in action. Principles such as a pleasing personality, faith, imagination, persistence, freedom from fear and failure, right mental attitude, and desire are attainable only through self-discipline. Self-discipline is the key quality by which you may voluntarily shape the patterns of thought to harmonize with your aims and chief purpose. In the field of salesmanship, for example, all master salesmen know that the successful salesman is the persistent salesman, and persistence is a matter of strict self-discipline. Maynard H. Jackson has always been a master salesman. In the late 1950s, fresh out of college, he sold encyclopedias door to door. Starting with a modest territory and strict self-discipline, he worked his way up to sales manager, earning as much as $30,000 in commissions. In 1973, after earning a law degree and entering politics, Jackson sold himself to Atlanta voters and became the first black mayor of a major southern city. Discipline has been one of my greatest strengths, Jackson said. Through persistence, faith, and self-discipline, small opportunities have blossomed into great enterprises. In the field of athletics, the same rule applies. The most successful athletes carry on with unyielding self-discipline, repeating their efforts day after day, year after year with unabating regularity. Superstar athletes have convincing evidence that this may be the only strategy that produces winning results. Debbie Thomas started skating in second-hand skates, so tight her feet ached. To finance her training and constant travel, her mother was forced to skip mortgage payments. In order to reach her goal of competing in the Olympics, Debbie made her own costumes, choreographed her own routines, repaired broken skates with Elmer's glue, and for 12 successive years adhered to the same 6-hour-a-day practice routine. Thomas was the first black female to make the U.S. Olympic figure skating team. She was also the first American female skating champion in 30 years to attend college while competing. Raised by her mother, Debbie has always relied on relentless willpower and strict self-discipline. Listen as she describes her secret of inner strength. I've learned that being good at anything, sports, school, or whatever, means devoting time, energy, and effort. It also means making some difficult choices and sacrifices. For me, becoming a world-class figure skater meant long hours of practice while sometimes tolerating painful injuries. It meant being totally exhausted sometimes and not being able to do all the things I wanted to do when I wanted to do them. But my dream came true. It took some talent, a fair share of luck, a good measure of persistence, but most of all, it took a great deal of self-discipline. Thus, we see that a successful individual gets his or her start through the application of self-discipline in pursuit of a definite purpose. He carries on until he attains that purpose with the aid of that same principle. Self-discipline is a self-acquired trait. It is not a quality that can be appropriated from the lives of others, nor can it be taught. It is an asset that must come from within by the exercise of one's power of choice. When Debbie Thomas said that being good at anything means devoting time, energy, and effort, and means making difficult choices and sacrifices, she doubtlessly meant that mastery of any endeavor can be attained in only one way, by the constant, persistent application of all the principles mentioned in this text. These are principles that must be woven into daily habit, applied in all human relationships, and used in the solution of all personal problems. Study men and women of greatness, and you'll find evidence that the power of self-discipline, organized and persistently applied, is the dominating factor of their success. Further, you will discover that successful men and women commit themselves to a stricter system of self-discipline than any that is forced upon them by circumstances beyond their control. They focus on their goals with an intensity that sweeps aside trivial things so they can concentrate on the matters at hand, and they remain steadfast until they succeed. High achievers go the extra mile, and if need be, another, and still another, never stopping until they have reached their objective. They move on their own personal initiative because they direct their efforts by the strictest form of self-discipline. Self-discipline is training that corrects, molds, strengthens, and perfects. Your behavior and your attitudes are expressions of your thoughts. Much of our thinking seems to be uncontrolled, random thinking, or is on a semi-conscious level. From time to time, we are aware of our feelings. Feelings may indicate that we have been thinking strongly on certain subjects. Self-discipline teaches us to direct the energy generated by our thoughts into feelings and action. That will be invaluable as we move forward. Self-discipline will help direct your energy into the most useful, successful channels. The term self-discipline refers only to the power of thought, because all discipline of self must take place in the mind. You are where you are and what you are because of your thoughts, and your thoughts are subject to your control. You can mold your thoughts to fit any circumstance, positive or negative. You can keep your mind trained on that which you desire and receive just that. Or you can feed on thoughts of things you do not desire, and your thoughts will unerringly bring you that also. The world's heaviest man. How do you develop such discipline? Hopefully, the story of a man who used the power of self-discipline to achieve a lifelong goal will explain. At age 6, Walter Hudson weighed 125 pounds. When he was 12, he'd reached 375 pounds. 30 years later, it took firemen, police, and a trained emergency team nearly 5 hours to lift him after he fell on his bathroom floor. By then, Hudson weighed an estimated 1,200 pounds. When his story reached the local newspapers, even the Guinness Book of World Records wanted to cite him. The headlines across the country proclaimed him to be the world's heaviest man. Because of his obesity, Hudson had forced himself to live a life in seclusion. He had ventured outdoors only once in 27 years, and that was when his family moved from Brooklyn to an adjoining suburb. For 16 years, Hudson was unable to lead a normal life. His days were spent in bed, covered by sheets, wearing only colored ribbons in his braided hair. Propped against a wall of pillows, Hudson was an accumulation of flesh, 6 feet long and more than 9 feet around. Held at his sides, his arms pushed out across his double bed, each one the size of 2 bushel sacks, connected by a dimpled elbow. In this condition, he lived in a first-floor bedroom, going through the daily routine of watching television, reading magazines, and anticipating his next meal. Hudson began each day by giving himself a sponge bath from a pail of water, cleansing the folds of his body with a washcloth wrapped around a long stick, followed by eating. Breakfast consisted of a pound of bacon, 2 pounds of sausage, a dozen eggs, coffee, orange juice, 6 donuts, and potatoes. For lunch, he would eat 3 hero sandwiches and a box of cupcakes, washed down with a liter bottle of soda. For dinner, he would gorge on 2 chickens, vegetables, and of course, dessert. His weekly food bill ran as high as $300. He recalls as a boy how he outfoxed his mother's attempts to slim him down. She dragged me to doctors and clinics, admonishing me to stick to the diet, but sooner or later I would sneak off to the kitchen on one of my uncontrollable binges. The 7th son and youngest of 9 children from a broken home, Hudson remembers the day he stopped going outside, 18 years ago. I went for a short walk with my mother before I got exhausted, he said. My legs couldn't carry me another step. I confined myself to my house and refused to go out, not even to attend my mother's funeral. After I lost my mother, I really started to put on the weight. I prayed for God's help. Deep down inside, I wanted to die, and I would have if it wasn't for my brother. He told me that I was my worst enemy and that only I could save myself. Filled with shame and condemnation, Hudson poured himself into the scriptures, seeking answers for his problem. He desperately wanted to be thin, to be normal. Why can't I control my emotions, he questioned. Emotions that led to a food addiction. Day in and day out, he waged war with himself. Then, after months of prayer and solitude in the quiet of his bedroom, his answer came. Inadvertently, he reached for the nearest book, opened it to a dog-eared page. It read, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Hudson read it again and again. He had read that verse hundreds of times, but with little meaning. This time, however, the words sunk in. After more meditation, he had renewed his strength. With a simple prayer, he would face his challenge head on. After expressing a desire to meet Dick Gregory, Hudson was contacted by the comedian and civil rights activist whose protest fasting had led him into the nutrition movement. After a detailed analysis of his medical history, Gregory prepared a menu and exercise plan. Soon Hudson's meal consisted of orange juice and powdered nutrients, supplemented by light exercising. Within 5 months, he had lost 375 pounds. Calls and letters came in from celebrities and supporters the world over, wishing him well. His very soul glowed with the satisfaction of his imminent success. After 8 months, he'd lost more than 500 pounds, and something else. He had lost his fear. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, he took his first steps outdoors. What changed his life? How did Walter Hudson overcome his greatest obstacle? In spite of his mother's constant pleas, after all the tears, heartaches, and lost battles, what turned the tide in his favor? Walter Hudson was ready. Once he made his irrevocable decision to lose weight, he had peace of mind. His new lifestyle proved it. After 42 years of gross obesity, he now felt his life had meaning. I want to get well, he said. I know I have the willpower. There are things that I want to do with my life. I want to walk through the snow and play in the autumn leaves. I want to feel the rain on my face, but most importantly, I want to help others overcome their adversities, no matter what they are. When hardest hit, Walter Hudson turned on his willpower to its full capacity. It sustained him through those moments of temporary defeat and set him on a path to victory. Willpower is needed most when the oppositions of life are the greatest, and self-discipline will provide willpower for every such emergency, whether great or small. Unleash the power of self-discipline. How do you unleash the power of self-discipline? By habit, and you develop a habit through repetition. Sow in action and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character. Sow a character and you reap a destiny, said the psychologist and philosopher William James. Through self-discipline, Walter Hudson converted his greatest sorrow into his greatest asset, for it revealed to him the presence of that other self that he found in his Bible readings. There is one unbeatable rule for the mastery of self-discipline. Resolve yourself to change those habits you dislike, and once changed, never let an exception occur. This is the rule that has no equal. This is self-discipline of the highest order. Freedom of the body and mind, independence and economic security are the results of personal initiative expressed through self-discipline. By no other means may these desires be assured. The late Albert E. N. Gray, insurance tycoon and philanthropist, perhaps put it best when he spoke of success before the annual convention of the National Association of Life Underwriters. Gray said, "The common denominator of success, the secret of success of every man who has ever been successful, lies in the fact that he formed the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. It's just as true as it sounds, and it's just as simple as it seems. You can hold it up to the light, you can put it to the acid test, you can kick it around until it's worn out, but when you are all through with it, it will still be the common denominator of success, whether we like it or not. The things that failures don't like to do are the very things that you and I and other human beings, including successful men, naturally don't like to do. In other words, we've got to realize right from the start that success is something which is achieved by the minority of men, and is therefore unnatural, and not to be achieved by following our natural likes and dislikes, nor by being guided by our natural preferences and prejudices. Self-discipline is the first rule of successful leadership. Whenever you find a person who is succeeding, you will find a person who has exercised tremendous self-discipline. Where does self-discipline lead? Self-discipline leads to self-actualization. Abraham Maslow, father of third force psychology, defined the self-actualized person as a person who makes full use of and exploits his talents, potentialities, and capacities. Such a person seems to be fulfilling himself in doing the best he is capable of doing. Maslow further explained that the self-actualized person must find in his life those qualities that make his living rich and rewarding. He must find meaningfulness, self-sufficiency, effortlessness, playfulness, richness, simplicity, completion, necessity, perfection, individuality, beauty, and truth. This is the whole person, the rich, fulfilled inner person combined with the well-organized, complete outer person. The self-actualizer is not a spectator to life, but a participant in it. He determines what it is he wants out of life and then boldly sets out to attain it. He carefully and thoughtfully determines what he desires. He evaluates the cost of achieving it. Then he moves ahead with unfailing determination to possess it. He never forgets that a price must be paid. The most valuable person in society. Self-discipline also leads to the most cherished of all skills, leadership. All organizations, from the smallest to the largest, require leadership. Wherever you find a successful, growing organization, you'll find behind its success an outstanding leader. This is the most valuable person in society. In industry, leaders make the wheels turn and the entire operation click with clockwork precision. This is the man or woman who has been responsible for the growth of nations and their positions in the world. You'll find the most valuable player exercising his self-discipline by starting early and staying late. And when not toiling away, he or she is usually thinking and planning. A call for new leaders. Anyone who will be honest with himself realizes that he has been happiest and most satisfied after having successfully completed a difficult task. A leader is the person who can help others overcome any challenge. A leader is the parent who shows by example that any job worth doing is worth doing well. A leader is the student who studies to learn and not just to receive a grade. A leader is the neighbor who sets a positive example in his or her community. A leader is the employee who has the sense to realize that he gets the most out of any job by giving loyalty and dedication to the firm that pays his wages. A leader is the person who realizes the importance of becoming a bigger and better person with each passing day. A leader takes the responsibility for his own growth through self-discipline. How can you become such a leader? Easy. Fix your eye upon your goal, visualize it with every ounce of your being, and courageously set out towards it. Know and have faith that what should come to you will come to you. Everything in the universe works on the side of the person who works within nature's law. How to get the job you want. Earl Nightingale tells a moving story of one man's search for work in the heart of the Great Depression. A story that accurately defines the word leadership. Pay careful attention to the lesson that is about to unfold. During the Depression in the 1930s, the phrase most often heard by employers was, "I'll do anything, just give me a job." Millions were unemployed, hundreds of businesses had closed their doors, and employment offices were besieged by people looking for work. Tens of thousands of people had migrated to Southern California, only to find thousands more searching for employment that didn't exist. However, one young man, unintimidated by what he saw, made a startling discovery. Amazing as this may sound, he found that he could go to work almost anywhere he chose. It dawned upon him one day that businesses of every type were just as anxious to succeed as were the people seeking work. The owners of these firms were also preoccupied with the country's hard times, and many of them were looking and hoping for someone to come to their aid. This knight in shining armor would somehow show up on their doorstep and solve their company's problems. But all they had heard was the same old demoralizing thing. "I'll do anything, just give me a job." Simply speaking, these beaten hired hands were asking for unearned paychecks from companies that were bordering on financial ruin. As "No Help Wanted" signs appeared in storefront windows, This enterprising young man decided to become a part of the solution rather than part of the problem. His was a simple idea with positive results. With pad and pencil in hand, he selected a business and industry in which he thought he'd like to work, and one in which he could build a career. He then spent weeks researching and analyzing all he could about that particular field. He met and talked with people in the same area, listening intently and constantly probing for additional answers. He wanted to know the benefits and the opportunities as well as the pitfalls and drawbacks of that particular industry. He asked what bold developments were on the horizon and what were the leading technologies. Most important, he wanted to know what business owners felt was needed to place their firms back on solid footing. While others were knocking on doors begging for work, this enterprising young man could be found in the library scanning every available piece of information, thinking and planning ways a business might be improved. When he was ready to approach companies in the field that he had selected, he didn't ask for a job. With his briefcase in hand and a head full of knowledge, the young man said to the owner something like this: "Sir, I believe I know several ways in which your business can be greatly increased, and I'd like to talk to you about them." Imagine, here stood someone selling the one thing on earth in which his prospect was most interested, improving his business. The fact The fact that he knew a good deal about the industry permitted him to talk intelligently. He took the right mental attitude and expressed a willingness to pitch in and be of service. And the result? The possibilities mushroomed, and he got several job offers. While millions of jobless workers were asking for work, one man found a way to be of help. Ask yourself, what had he done? First, he decided exactly on the job and industry he wanted. Second, he specialized. He had selected a particular line of work and decided that was where his future would be. Third, he researched and studied his field of interest. Fourth, he knew his strengths and weaknesses and emphasized his strengths. And fifth, he set out to prove himself. He did most diligently. This process may involve investing your time and efforts, but the difference in income and advancement can eliminate years of hard work at shamefully low wages. Personal initiative is a trait much admired, and if carried out with discretion and logic, it can quickly place you ahead of the crowd. Initiative built on a definite understanding of what must be achieved puts you in harmony with your peers. If you have a goal in mind, then opportunities for personal initiative are easy to find. The jack of all trades and master of none was the man who suffered during the Depression. People who knew what they were doing and where they were going sailed through those Depression years like a vessel sails through a storm. It wasn't as comfortable as it could have been, but at least the crossing was a success, and thousands of businesses actually prospered and grew larger during those lean years. Become indispensable. Ask any achiever the secret of his or her success, and you are likely to get an answer something along these lines. Well, I was fortunate. I worked hard, didn't make too many mistakes, and happened to be in the right place at the right time. This is true as far as it goes. The real truth, however, is that in most cases, these modest people made their own breaks. They became indispensable to the enterprise or to their clients and customers because they developed invaluable personal attributes. Management, clients, and customers alike trust, rely, and can't seem to function without their support. These peak performers take the initiative, assume leadership roles, and can often be found volunteering for difficult or unpopular assignments. Others envy and admire these indispensable types. They seem to have a better understanding of themselves than most. Though they like group dynamics, they work equally well alone. This is a person of quiet confidence. This is an individual who is aware of his ability and has intimate knowledge of his position in industry. Indispensable men and women have the enthusiasm to inspire and the self-discipline to stick to the job until it's complete. The best way for you to develop the security that lasts a lifetime is to become outstanding at one particular line of work. Why? because in the event of any ripple or economic slowdown, as long as you are among the top producers in your field, you will always be in demand. The man or woman who becomes truly outstanding at what he or she does will always be in demand. Ask yourself this question: am I now such a person? Only you know the answer. If you answer yes, you are among the most fortunate people in one of the smallest and most elite groups on earth. If your answer is no, it can be turned into a yes in a surprisingly short time. Think for a moment. What gets thrown overboard when a ship is in danger of sinking? Anything that is not absolutely essential to the operation of the vessel and the safety of its passengers. It's the same with a business or organization. Who gets laid off during an economic slump? Those individuals who are not absolutely essential to the operation of the enterprise or organization. Those who insist on doing no more than they must can expect to be jettisoned when things get rough. Nobody, particularly the captain, likes to see cargo thrown over the side. Nonetheless, if it will help save the ship, there's nothing else to do. The same is equally true in business. More often than not, layoffs or cutbacks have nothing to do with personalities, management, or labor relations. Once smooth sailing has been reached, additional workers can always be employed, but it is up to you to decide whether you want to be part of the cargo or an indispensable member of the crew. Readers are leaders. There has long been a general misconception regarding the meaning of the word educate. The word has its roots within the Latin word educo, which means to develop from within, to draw out, to grow through use. An educated person is one who knows how to acquire the resources he needs in the attainment of his main purpose. Cato, the Roman statesman, once said, "Wise men profit more from fools than fools profit from wise men. For wise men try to avoid the faults of fools, but not so many fools ever try to emulate the good example of wise men." No man's education is ever finished, said Napoleon Hill. A man's reading program should be as carefully planned as his daily diet, for that too is food, without which he cannot mentally develop. My move upward, says Governor L. Douglas Wilder of Virginia, started with the great books. There is nothing more gratifying than satisfying the desire to know. And Pulitzer Prize winning author Alice Walker says, "More than once did I hesitate between eating and buying a rare book." John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist movement, told his pastoral students, "Either read or get out of the ministry." As a reader seeking the true path to riches, I say to you, either read or learn to fail gracefully. All major breakthroughs come as the result of taking in new information. A good book on self-improvement is like a friend who can help in an hour of need. Every achiever highlighted in Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, past or present, is or was an avid reader. Having realized that they would be classified by what they said and how they said it, they kept company with many of the masters of literature. You would be wise to follow their example. Take the time to spend your evenings with Maya Angelou, Zora Neale Hurston, James Weldon Johnson, James Baldwin, and other great writers and masters of prose. Read and study Toni Morrison, John Hope Franklin, Carter G. Woodson, and Langston Hughes, as well as Milton, Cicero, Emerson, Thoreau, Shakespeare, Steinbeck, Browning, W. Clement Stone, and of course Napoleon Hill. Reserve specific hours for reading and meditation. Read with a dictionary and thesaurus at your side. The case for reading can be summed up in a quote from a past U.S. president. "Men die, devices change, success and fame run their course, but within the walls of the smallest library lie the treasures, the wisdom, and the wonder of man's greatest adventure on earth." There is no end to learning. John Morton Finney is a very special man. 100 years old and the son of a former slave, he served in World War I, became fluent in 6 foreign languages, and earned 11 degrees, taught school until he was 81 and still practices law. He was an unquenchable thirst His was an unquenchable thirst for knowledge that has never abated. In his 60s, he enrolled in college all over again, earning his fourth bachelor's degree at 75. Today, he attends law school seminars with the wide-eyed eagerness of a freshman. A very humble man who insists there is nothing extraordinary about his accomplishments. Finney reads 3 or 4 books at a time, making copious notes. In his book-lined study in his home, Finney is at peace as he reads Homer, Cervantes, Pericles, Du Bois, Shakespeare, and Chaucer. Why does he read so desperately? I can get interested in so many things, he said. There is so much to know in this world, and it is such a pleasure for me to learn. Besides, a cultivated man would never say, I finished my education, because he graduated from college. There is no end to learning. In his childhood, Finney learned about his ancestors who migrated from Ethiopia to Nigeria. Enslaved and brought to America, the family was bought, sold, and separated, only to be rejoined after the Emancipation Proclamation. Finney was born in 1889 in Uniontown, Kentucky. The son of a barber, he was an inquisitive child who loved reading, history, and poetry. The first book he ever purchased was Webster's Dictionary. It cost 35 cents, every cent he had, but it proved to be a wise investment. When his mother died, he was sent to Missouri to live with his grandfather and continue his education. The nearest school for blacks was 6 miles away. Each day, John Finney walked that endless road past a school for whites that was only half as far. In 1914, he joined the army and served in Europe. After the war, he immediately enrolled in college and earned bachelor's degrees in mathematics, French, and history. Several years later, when Indiana began to segregate its public schools, Finney taught Greek, Latin, German, Spanish, and French at all-black Crispus Attucks High School, where there were more teachers with advanced degrees than any other school in the state. Here he passed on his love for learning and a demanding level for scholarship, while continuing to further his education. Every semester and each summer he would take a course. I had set this ideal, he said. No child could ask me a question that I could not answer or did not know how to find the answer. Soon Finney had earned master's degrees in education and French from Indiana University. In 1935 he finished his first law degree, to which he would add 4 more. When asked to reveal the secrets of his lifelong pursuit of education, Finney tells the story of a bookseller who came to him seeking an order. He was white. The salesman apparently did not think too highly of Finney teaching black children Latin and Greek. I don't believe in a black man getting a white man's education, the salesman said rather curtly. And what is a white man's education? Finney retorted. After trying to respond to his answerless question, the salesman shrugged his shoulders and left. Education is education, Finney snapped. Take John Morton Finney teachings to heart. Read widely in your chosen field. The public libraries are free. They offer a wide array of organized knowledge on any subject. Attend lectures by respected authorities. Take courses if available. As the above story illustrates, education is a lifelong process and should only end when you do. Think deeply about what you've learned. Digest information for your subconscious to act on. But most importantly, read. Stand out from the crowd. Readers are leaders. The future belongs to the dreamer. Black America, the entire world needs and is demanding a group of pioneers who have the capacity to conceive bold new plans, new ideas, and new visions. Black men and women who have the courage and the initiative to blaze new trails. Beware, said Emerson, when the great God lets loose a thinker on this planet. Then all things are at risk. These new leaders will establish roots in every profession, the arts, education, business, politics, and religion. What you will witness will be the golden age of mankind. Banish forever the thoughts of poverty, of limit and scarcity. Poverty is not the enemy. The enemy is the man who not only believes in his own helplessness, but actually worships it. His main article of faith is that there are mammoth forces at work against him which he cannot possibly comprehend, much less alter or direct. He expends his energies in attempting to convince others that there is nothing either he or they can do. He is an enemy because of his proximity of helplessness to hopelessness. Banish forever the idea that you must be poor. To begin with, you are never seeing poverty, but the representation of an idea of lack. Both poverty and prosperity are states of mind. If you desire to erase the thought of poverty, you must occupy your mind with the thought of success, prosperity, and achievement. You must confront the revealing truth that poverty is a lack of knowledge of who and what you really are. Remember the secrets you uncovered in Acres of Diamonds. That story demonstrated one of the great secrets of life, that you have acres of diamonds within you. These diamonds within are called potential and ability. There are plenty of these gems inside you waiting to be mined. The future will require dreamers who can put their dreams into action. Achieving men and women will know the 4 fundamental steps taken by all who succeed. Number 1, the choice of a definite goal. Number 2, the desire to develop sufficient power for goal attainment. Number 3, a plan involving the accumulation of specialized knowledge for attaining that goal. Number 4, action, which includes persistence in carrying out the plan. If you say to that mountain, move, the dreamer will succeed in this progressive age. Any person who cherishes a lofty ideal or purpose and hold fast to it will see that dream manifest into reality. This is the age that is favorable to practical visionaries. The world is no longer scoffing at the dreamer, nor calling him impractical. Instead, it beckons him to bring forth his ideas and plans, and rewards him justly. If you view yourself as a failure, nothing short of a dream and action will change your circumstances. The world never forgives failure. It hungers for and worships success. It has no time for shortcomings or a half-hearted approach. Though the achiever may have sympathy for the man who has failed, he or she will not permit another's failure to contaminate his or her own thinking. The achiever knows that it would be better for him or her to suffer loneliness and exclusion than to associate with those minds that are overrun with thoughts of failure and distress. Success requires no explanations. Failure permits no alibis. If you are trying to get a start in the world but feel unable to remove the many barriers that block your path, do not be discouraged. The obstacles that look so formidable at a distance will grow smaller and smaller as you approach your goals. Have courage and confidence in yourself, and the road will clear before you advance. Study the life stories of great men and women who from humble beginnings have cleared their pathways of obstructions. Magnify your faith and you will minimize your obstacles. The entire science of success consists of the vigorous, persistent affirmation of your determination and ability to do that which you have set your heart upon. It consists of facing your goal, turning to neither the left nor the right, though many may tempt you, while disaster threatens your every move. If your determination and persistence are easily deflected, if any persuasion can separate you from your objective, you may be sure that you are on the wrong track. If ill health or affliction holds you back, though there are numerous instances of success in spite of them, then assess your objectives. You may lack grit or initiative. Success in anything worthwhile is the result of wholehearted faith, tremendous persistence, and work. Steady, unremitting, conscientious work. Light, half-hearted efforts. Indifferent, intermittent toil has never accomplished anything and never will. In his classic work, The Prophet, Khalil Gibran says, "When you work, you fulfill a part of Earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born. And in keeping yourself with labor, you are in true loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. Emerson says, men talk of victory as of something fortunate. Work is victory. Wherever work is done, victory is obtained. Get busy and work with all your might. There is no such thing as failure for the willing, ambitious worker. Work, which many have called a curse, is really the salvation of the race. It is the greatest education, the greatest educator. It is the most effective mentor. There is no other way of developing power, summoning resources, and building stamina of character. All achievement begins in thought but ends in work. Work is the savior. Don't hide behind such silly excuses as, I have no chance, or no one is willing to help me or show me the way. If there is something within you, if you are worth your weight, you will make a way if you cannot find one. You belong to the world minority who live in a free society. This alone offers you the opportunity to become whatever you wish. It can be done. I am constantly asked by ambitious men and women whether I think they really have what it takes to achieve success. Without fail, my answer is a resounding yes. Success is the most natural thing in the world, stated philosopher and writer Elbert Hubbard. The person who does not succeed has placed himself in opposition to the laws of the universe. I know you have the ability to succeed, but I don't know if you will succeed. That rests entirely with you. You can, but will you? It's one thing to possess the ability to do something distinctive, something outstanding, but doing it is a different matter. There is a tremendous surplus of unproductive ability within the ranks of the mediocre. Why don't more men and women use this ability? Many of them could lead prosperous, productive lives. They have the opportunity to do so. But why don't they? You say you desire to make your life count, that you are ambitious. Then why don't you? What are you waiting for? What holds you down? Who is keeping you back? Answer these questions and you will have taken a major step toward achievement. There is only one answer. You, the man or woman who waits for favorable conditions or favorable circumstances, will do nothing but wait. Time is running out. Now is the time for personal inventory. Now is the time to find out who you are, where you are going, and how you are going to get there. If you are not where you wish to be or what you wish to be, there is only one reason. Now is the time to find out why. A time bomb is in your possession. It is ticking away, moment by moment, bringing you closer and closer to the day when either success or failure will be written beside your name. The time bomb is your lifespan. How you utilize your time will determine either success or failure. Your knowledge and your ability to make the most of your time is the vital factor that determines what you will achieve on this road called life. And time waits for no one. Blacks are growing rich. Reason now with a man who understands and has achieved riches. He is proof that blacks are growing rich. Rich not only in material terms, but in all the great riches of life. He has mastered the principles of desire, imagination, faith, persistence, self-image, self-reliance, personality, enthusiasm, money, right mental attitude, and self-discipline. He now possesses all this great land has to offer. Perhaps no individual has shown more understanding of the principles in this book than George E. Johnson, founder of Johnson Products, and a distinguished businessman. Here are highlights from a speech he delivered before a local black civic organization in his native Chicago, Illinois. No one can explain why we sometimes find ourselves in what proves to be the right place at the right time. No one at the time can accurately assess the value of being exposed to positive, dynamic, and creative thinking, which challenges the imagination, quickens the energy, and instills a desire to succeed. As I look back over my childhood, I realize my brothers and I were blessed, for we were never poor. We just didn't have any money. But our mother saw to it that there was never spiritual impoverishment in our home or in our lives. It is the presence of the spiritual element that provides the individual with the drive we call incentive. My life's experiences have taught me the value of many principles that I would like to emphasize. First, education is a paramount prerequisite for improving the lot of the individual and the group that he belongs to. Black America has discovered through experience that the system does not always work in its behalf and must be changed. I agree, but I emphasize that the American system is intricate and frequently deceptive, and no one is qualified to change a system he or she does not understand. Education brings understanding. Second, be curious. Discover all you can about yourself and this world you live in. Be curious at school, at work, in the community. Learn from others, your family, your teachers, and friends. Everyone has something to offer. Third, decide what you want out of life. Set your sights high and don't be afraid to dream big dreams. Some downgrade dreaming, but I don't. I know that he who never dreamed never had a dream come true. Strike out boldly for the things you honestly want. Approach each new problem not with the view of finding what you hope will be there, but to get the truth, the realities you must grapple with. You may not like what you find. In that case, you are entitled to try and change it. Fourth, be ready to take advantage of all opportunities. Not only when opportunity knocks at your door, but be ready to knock on opportunity's door. Be different, though it's sometimes dangerous to do so. Fifth, do not hate. Hate is unproductive. It creates nothing of value and has much more corrosive effect on the hater than the hated. And above all, have faith in yourself. Be a person of worth and know it. Believe in yourself. Hold in your consciousness a vision of the life you desire. Move through each day with a vision of yourself as strong yet loving, flexible yet in charge. Act as though failing was impossible. Within you are limitless possibilities waiting for birth. Go ahead, give life to them. Yours is a grave responsibility. Each generation must pick up where the last one left off. This is no time for the weak-kneed, indecisive, compromising, and crawling men and women. If ever we needed strength, courage, character, and determined will, backed by unfaltering faith, it is now. Let me leave you with this final thought. When these principles are a part of your life, you will have developed a philosophy you can live with and one which you can be proud. If you are in touch with your divine potential, you have wealth and power. Each of us is created to do something special with our lives. We have an individual mission and a collective contribution to make toward uplifting this world. The only limitations of life you need ever fear are those which you place on yourself. Black America, the decision is yours. You have just studied an outline that can help you walk in the light of accomplishment. In the preceding chapters, you have been exposed to success formulas that others have used to lift themselves to great heights of personal achievement. You have been introduced to the methods by which successful black men and women have learned to direct their minds and control their thoughts while performing seemingly miraculous tasks. I have shared with you what may be merely words or great wealth and contentment, depending on how you use them. But the decision is yours. Each one of us has a divine inheritance of good and a unique path to follow in life to realize that good. Your path is your path. It is particular to you. Though the general outcome of your life and your specific goals may be similar to those of others, the circumstances, events, and obstacles you encounter will be distinctly your own. Each one of us is a unique creation in the mind of the Almighty. What's right is what is right and appropriate for you, for all that you are and all that you want to become. What's right is what is consistent with your spiritual identity, who and what you really are. What's normal is what it takes for you to proceed on your path smoothly, confidently, and intelligently. What it requires is for you to live compatibly and charitably with others and still be able to achieve your goals and work out your destiny in your own way. You are given as your richest birthright the privilege of controlling your own thoughts. Therefore, treat this divine gift with the profound respect to which it is entitled. Do not allow anyone to do your thinking for you or influence your thinking in any manner except by the principles discussed herewith. Learn to think for yourself and to trust your inner voice. It will guide you unfailingly. What is needed? The crying need of the hour is humanity, not organizations, not legislation, but men and women, black men and women who can stand in the presence of their God and truthfully say, the place I occupy does not need reforming. Men and women who are ready and willing to bring the reformation of the world into their hearts. Men and women who can say to their struggling brothers and sisters with love, follow me. We need to send this message of love throughout the world, but first, let it start with us in our community. Speak it in every pulpit, every school, and engrave it on our hearts. Embedded in the hearts of all mankind, love is the answer. I am confident that you will succeed in your efforts. If you concentrate on that which you desire and persevere, and when you do succeed, because you surely will, my joy will be unbounded. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them, and they flew. Guillaume Apollinaire.